Alright, today we're going to look at point slope formula for our lines. This is something that should be familiar not only from earlier this year but also from last year when you were in Algebra 1. So as a reminder, our formula for point slope formula is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We're going to be plugging numbers in or replacing those red variables, and then we will distribute and solve for y. So m is going to be our slope. x1, y1 is going to be an ordered pair that we have that is on that line somewhere. So again, we're going to label our slope with an m in our problem. We're going to label our coordinates x1 and y1 so we can keep them organized and know which one's which. Then we're going to distribute the slope and then isolate or solve for y, and then we're done. So for this first example here, I have an ordered pair 4, 1, and then I have a slope of 2. So this is my m. And then this ordered pairs, remember it's always x first, so x1, y1. So when I go back to my equation, I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then I'm going to replace my x1, my y1, and my m. So I have y minus 1 equals 2 times x minus 4. Now this will be where I then distribute my slope that way. So this left side here is going to stay the same. It's still y minus 1 for now, equals 2 times x is 2x. And then 2 times a negative 4 is going to be negative 8. So once I'm here, that next step that I have to do is get my y by itself or isolate my y. The opposite of subtracting 1 is going to be adding 1. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So this will cancel. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So all I'm left with on that side is y. So y equals 2x. Now this is where we've got to be careful so we don't get our signs confused. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7. And once I get there, I'm done. I now have gone from point slope to slope intercept. Next one here, you guys can go ahead and pause the video right here and try this one for yourself. You have coordinates at 2, 4, and then you have a slope of 1/2. All right, so what we should have done here is we should have labeled 2 as x1, y1, and then we have our slope here. So now I go into my y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and I start replacing my variables. So y minus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 2. And then this left side is going to stay the same for now. On this side, I'm going to distribute my 1/2. So 1/2 times x is just 1/2 x. And then 1/2 of negative 2 is negative 1. And then I'm going to isolate my y by adding 4 to both sides. So those will disappear. And then I have y equals 1/2. Now negative 1 plus 4. Oops, 1/2 x. Negative 1 plus 4 is going to be positive 3. And this should be what you guys got when you tried it. Next one here, we've got a negative and a 0 in our ordered pair. So just a little bit of a different scenario than what we saw before, but it's still the same steps. I still have an x1, y1, and I still have a slope, which is my m. And I'm still using that same formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then I'm still going to plug everything in. Now this side is going to be a y minus 0 equals 2/3 x. Now this will be minus a negative 6. Remember, minus a negative is the same as adding a positive. So when I get to my next step here, y minus 0 is just y. So this equals 2/3 x plus 6. Now some of you aren't going to have to write that step. You'll be able to kind of go straight to it from up here. But for those of you that still need the extra step, go ahead and write it. Now I can distribute. So y equals 2/3 x plus, I can do 6 times 2, which is 12, and then 12 divided by 3, which will give me 4. So y equals 2/3 x plus 4 is going to be my final answer for that one. Last one here, you guys have some negatives, so you guys can go ahead and try this one, pause the video, see what you get, and then we'll go through it. Now with this one here, again, still the same ordered pair of x1, y1. Still slope is m, so I have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Both of these are negative, so I'm going to have y minus a negative 1 is going to become plus 1 equals negative 3/4 x minus a negative 8 is going to be plus 8. I'm still going to do the same steps, so this side will stay the same. So y plus 1 equals, over here I'm going to distribute. Don't forget about your negative sign when you're distributing. So negative 3/4 x plus, this will end up being a negative because it's a positive times a negative. So 8 times 3 will give me 24, and 24 divided by 4 will give me a 6. Okay, so I'll have y plus 1 equals negative 3/4 x minus 6. And again, some of you will be able to skip this step here and go straight to it being a negative 6. Some of you might still need to write it out, and that's fine. So then my next step here is to isolate y or get it by itself. Opposite of adding 1 will be subtracting 1. And again, have to do that to both sides. So those will disappear. I'm going to go up to the side here. I'm left with y equals negative 3/4 x. Negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. And that there will be my slope-intercept form.